Well, hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So this is going to be a upgrade video about the two-wheel drive Slash. This came originally with the brushless system. Now I've had this truck for almost a year and I have not done a thing to it. It is out of the box, I think, one of the funnest vehicles that there is out there. So I'm getting into the point where I want to start upgrading it, and the first thing I did is I went ahead and I went out and I bought I was given a nice brushless system, which is a Sidewinder ESC with a 4-pole Castle brushless motor, which makes this truck go very, very, very fast. So because it's so fast, it ends up being very uncontrollable. So all the funness of this car suddenly evaporated. It's almost undrivable in its current condition. So let me just pull off the body and just show you guys the body. And this is the body after many rollovers and just lots of punishing. It actually looks quite good still. Now when I put the brushless system in, here is the Castle ESC and the Castle motor. It became very squirrely. You know, it'd accelerate and it would sway from both sides, one side to the other. So the only cure that I could come up with for that is to put more preload in the springs of the shocks, which basically makes it stand up really tall. It doesn't squat anymore, and it makes it it does make it a little bit more controllable, but the car is just not where it needs to be. So for that, I actually bought these Integy springs. These are the reason I bought these. These are just standard progressive springs. You know, it starts off at a normal spring compression and it just stays through that compression through the entire spring. These ones tend to be very soft at the top end and then get harder in the middle. So it's not really a performance spring. It's more of a scale spring, if you want it, my opinion on that. I will put a link in the description to all the products that I'm using. Basically, I'm using 3 products today that I am going to be using for the upgrade. First is going to be the front and rear springs. I'm going to be using the green, which is a slight bit of a stiffer spring, I believe. So the springs are going to be the first upgrade that I'm going to be doing. Now the second upgrade I'm going to be doing is I bought what's called a LCG frame. What that means is this is a low center of gravity frame. So now if you look at this car, you look at where the battery placement is, which is the heaviest part of the car, it's actually quite a bit up off the floor of the vehicle here. You can see the bottom of the front steering assembly is here, then it goes up, and then it goes back down here to the rear differential. Now that's great for scale, performance, and it's super fun in the brushless version. When you have this as a higher performance truck with a brushless system, it tends to want to roll the vehicle over very, very easily. So when you use this product here, like I said, I'll leave product descriptions in the description. This is the 5830 Traxxas frame. Let me pull this out. This frame is called the LCG frame because it basically lowers the center of gravity. So I'm going to pull all the extras out here. And what's going to happen is it's going to make the steering and the transmission stay in the same place, but it's going to lower the battery position. And it gets more of a skid plate on the back here. One of the things that happens with this type of suspension is you have a lot of clearance here, but as soon as you come into here and you hit something, you get hung up on it. So that's going to provide a little bit of a skid plate. So it comes with an additional brace here for your steering components and the front end selection right here. You have some side protectors and also a new battery wishbone here. And this kit, for some reason, also came with progressive springs for the front as well, which is nice. So let me set this aside. Let me show you the third thing that I got. This is basically a front and rear sway bars for this truck. Now, when this truck starts going really fast, sometimes it'll sway from right to left, depending on the power coming through the transmission. And the way to combat that is through some sway bars. The sway bars help balance the suspension a little bit more. When it starts to lean onto one side, it tends to pick up the shocks on the opposite side to help it hunker down a little bit in the turns. Now, make sure you guys, when you order these things, that you pay attention to the names, because instead of a Traxxas Slash sway bar, I accidentally bought the Traxxas Slayer sway bar. So these are going to come in a few days, and hopefully I can just roll that into this video as well. So I'll start off with the frame and the springs, and we'll get you guys on time lapse right now. Okay guys, so that was the front end. It was pretty easy. Keep track of all your bolts and everything because you will need them to put this thing back together. Make sure you don't tighten up your steering post too much because then it will stiffen your steering. But everything's looking pretty good here. I should have mentioned that also I'm going to be upgrading the tires at some point, but so far the stock tires are fine. Unfortunately, they have a little bit of water in them, so they are not very weighted very well, as you can see. So I'm going to put you guys back on time lapse and we'll start doing the back end. I'm done installing the low center of gravity frame, and it was pretty much the easiest install I've ever done. It literally only took me about 15, maybe 20 minutes at the most. So only thing I have to do right now is just put my receiver box back in, mount my ESC, and plug in my steering servo. And that's pretty much it. Now it does come with these side Nerf bars, and I don't actually know if I'm going to install these because I don't know if I really need them because I'm not going to be like racing or anything. This is just a basher, just lives amongst my my house and out in front of my house, and we drive it that way. I'm going to go ahead and put in the green springs, and we'll go ahead and do this on camera for a little bit. Like I was mentioning before, these are progressive springs. That means they get harder and squished throughout the whole stroke of the shock. Now the long ones are going to go in the back, and the shorter ones will go in the front. Get these guys out of here. I don't know why I'm picking green. It's just the guy that I watched on YouTube, his video. He said that the green ones work good, so I'm just going to take his word for it. And if I need to change anything in the future, I will. So putting in springs is about one of the easiest things you can do for your car here. I will go ahead and show you how to do it real quick if you guys haven't done it before. I'm going to unscrew the bottom of the shock here. There's a little clip on the very end that you just need to pop off of the bottom of the shock, and then you're good to go here. It's that 2mm bolt. Just gonna swing the shock arm out. You're gonna squeeze. You're gonna bring the springs up, and also there's a slot where the shock shaft comes through this bottom keeper, the retaining spring, the retaining cap, this right here. So you take this out, you pull your springs off. This is a spring that was in there before. Like I said, this one is very cushy at the very start of the stroke, and then it gets stiffer as it goes, so it squats down quite a bit. So it's not very good for keeping this high performance rig going in one direction. So I'm going to pull off all of these preload shims that I had on here. So look at all these preload shims I had there to help take out some of the body sway. So these are the shorter shocks right here. Just gonna pop these guys on here, and it's always a nice thing when you have things apart to just go ahead and clean things up. I don't know if you guys have been noticing on the when I've been doing this, as I've been cleaning up as I go. It's always a nice thing to do when you have it apart. So I'm gonna put these green springs on here, and I'll just stick it in there with no preload collars to start with, and I'll go from there. So there we go, it's back into place, and I'm just going to put the screw in place. I'll do the rear one here, and then we'll move on to the anti-sway bars. Now, like I said, the anti-sway bars haven't come in yet, but I'll extend this video into the anti-sway bars as well. So. Okay guys, well that is the springs and the low center of gravity frame, and I'm gonna jump cut now to me installing the anti-sway bars. Like I said guys, the anti-sway bars are for when you're turning and these shocks on the right side, you should go on left, when these shocks on the right side get compressed, it actually helps to pull up the inside wheels, so it actually presses and squats the whole vehicle down, so it gets a lower center of gravity when it goes through these turns and whatnot. So we will put the other springs on the other side, and I'll jump cut now to the sway bars. Okay guys, it's a couple days later and I've already tested out the low center of gravity frame and also these green springs for the car, and I can tell you already the performance of this car has gone way up with pretty inexpensive hop-ups at this point. The last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and install these hot racing sway bars. Now these, I'll put a link into the description as well. It comes with 3 front and 3 rear springs. These are what they would call springs for the front and rear. I'm going to go ahead and use the stiffest one, which is the blue. So I'm going to go ahead and set these aside. There is a front and rear mount. This is the front that's going to be pinned in between these 2 pieces right here. It's going to be held in place right about there. And then this piece here holds the back rear sway bar at about that position right there. So the one thing about this kit is there's no instructions whatsoever, so I did go online and find a video that had the installation of these. I can put a link in the description to that down below as well. But you do get all of your mounting hardware here. I'll go ahead and show you guys this. Just some simple screws, and these are the extension arms that go from the sway bar down to your control surface, which is the control arms or the A-arms of the vehicle. So we'll be installing these as well. So I'm going to go ahead and put you guys on time lapse and we'll go ahead and get started. Okay guys, so I had no problems putting in the front sway bar here. It looks like it works really well. The suspension on both sides, I let one side down. If I let this side down, you can see that it actually relaxes this side as well. So as you're taking a corner, it'll help to make your vehicle kind of hunker down a little bit into the corners. The problem I'm running into right now, these are the stock screws that came out. It came with 2 longer screws and 2 shorter screws. This is one of the shorter screws, and this is not long enough to go through both the eyelet here and the shock eyelet and into the plastic. So I'm going to see if I can find some longer screws. Alright guys, so every video that I saw about the rear sway bar for this hot racing setup was incorrect. They had the mount on the front side of the shock tower and then coming through some ridiculous area through here, and the screws were not long enough to go through the shock and the little piece right here. And the reason for that is it's not supposed to go up there. So I basically figured it out. What I had to do was I had to move the body post section here up by 1 hole to allow clearance for the mount right here, as you can see. This comes down and then hooks into the opposite side of the shock, which is like that, and that allows still some nice sag there of the suspension, although it gets a little stiffer as it goes on because it starts to stretch outward. So it's a little wonky in my opinion, because the sway bar is not supposed to add anything to the suspension, just from right to left. Okay guys, so one last change here. So I took out the blue bar that was intended for the rear and I used the silver bar that's intended for the front, and instead of having the blue mount up here, which came through here and was mounted off this direction, with this sitting in that fashion, you can see that once one side of your suspension compresses, it has a really odd angle, so it's not actually going to do what it's supposed to do, and it actually binds the suspension. You can see that this coming down in this angle, as the suspension compresses both together, it's going to bind your suspension. So what I did is I went ahead and did this. You can see right now that this silver arch is not going to be binding your suspension at all, and it's giving us a little bit of the sway bar effect here. So if I wanted to, I could actually cut the ends off of this bar here and do the same thing, because this blue bar is a little bit stiffer. Also, with this blue bar, the way it was mounted, the way it was intended, you could not get on your gear protector as well. So take that for what it's worth, and let me just switch the car around here so you can see where I have that mounted. So this is where the shock tower mates with the frame, and I just went ahead and put some larger
washers underneath those screws, and it's basically holding that sway bar in place. It works just fine. I think I probably need just a slightly larger washer, and to where it'll actually touch the shock tower here, and that should do it. But like I said, I was having a lot of binding with the suspension. Now it doesn't have that binding issue, so I will take this out and run it once again. We'll do another video coming up real soon. Okay guys, so this is going to be the first run with all 3 upgrades: the springs, the low center of gravity chassis, and also the anti-sway bars. And I have an 18-tooth pinion on there with a 4-pole sidewinder motor, and let's see how this goes here. Whoa, it's fast. Let's see. It's definitely staying more upright. I might have to put some softer springs in. Oh man, yeah, that thing is not rolling at all. I think I might. I don't see a whole lot of suspension movement. That's kind of funny. Yeah, usually the front end dives quite a bit when I hit the brakes there. So let's see here. Is it really stiffening up the front suspension? No, it actually, I've got some suspension sag there, so. Alright, let's see here. I'll just do a full speed run past us here. That's full speed. Yeah, definitely a lot less body sway. And you can still, of course, flip it over. I've got this silly thing right here that I need to tuck in. Alright, let's see if there's some things we can hit here. I've got my gear mesh just a little bit too high. Ooh. Alright, on its feet, good. Okay guys, well my truck just hit thermal shutdown, so I'm running it kind of hard. So obviously you guys can see that the truck is performing really nice. I don't know how necessary the anti-sway bars are. They're a little bit
They perform a little bit, but I don't know how much effect you're actually getting from it. Now, if you're going to be a racer or something like that, it might be more important. I'm just a basher. I just like to run around the backyard here with the kids. Like I said, when you start upgrading to brushless systems, you're going to need to improve your suspension component and also your wheels. My next upgrade is going to be the tires, so that we can get some traction around here, because that's pretty slippery. Alright guys, thanks for joining my video once again, and I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.